I think to buy this bike, it depends how much you love your pillion, doesn't it? Now, last time we did this, Helen, it cost us a lot of money, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because the last time we did a pillion and pinion was on the 2019 BMW S1000XR. And at the end of that video, as we were kind of wrapping it up, you went, I really like it. Can we have one?
I'm just in a good get off here.
Hey!
Yeah, I definitely love this bike. I think you should buy it.
And we ended up buying one, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we've done 150 miles on this 2020 S1000XR to find out what it's like for a pillion. Now, I was on the launch of this one. I can't remember what it was Tenerife, something like that, but it was wet, really, really wet. So I got the chance to borrow one again and see how it compared to what I thought of it initially. But we're here for the pillion opinion, so what's your opinion?
It's really comfy for a pillion. It's really good. It's a lot smoother ride than your one, and
Our one.
and yeah, it's nice for a pillion. It's just really comfortable.
So we should say, you know, you've been pillion on loads and loads of bikes, wide variety of bikes.
Yeah,
you?
definitely.
And you know, been fortunate enough to test ride a lot of different bikes for many years. Our XR, it is a little bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a lot harsh.
Yeah. Well, there's two suspension modes, aren't there? Road and dynamics. We've got the one with we got it at the end of its model year, so we managed to get a top spec one for a good price. It was the only new vehicle we've ever bought in our lives.
Yeah.
Isn't it? But yeah, it's got road and dynamic damping modes. In dynamic mode, it's just too harsh for you.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're further over the back, it's transmitting everything. In road mode, would you say it's all right, bearable?
Yeah, it's bearable.
And actually, you've done your back in, haven't you?
Yeah,
So-
I was quite worried about riding this today just because I've got a sore back at the moment.
Yeah.
But my back actually felt better when I got off than when I got on.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, it's a therapeutic bike.
I don't know, I can't explain why. I think because I'm sitting quite correctly in it, it's forcing me to sit up straight. My leg position, I've got quite short legs because I'm only 5'3".
Yep.
But my leg is, I haven't got sore knees, as I usually get sore knees on a bike. But I haven't got that, so it must force me into a position that's actually quite anatomically correct.
Yeah. Cool.
It's very comfortable.
And you said, you thought the seat maybe felt slightly firmer when you first jumped on it,
Yeah,
didn't
when I
you,
first got
Vanessa?
on, I thought the seat
Yeah.
felt hard, but after about an hour and a half, I started getting a slightly numb bum, but then,
Okay.
bearable and didn't worsen.
Yeah, and you know, about an hour and a half is the your
Yeah,
maximum
that's
wee
for most.
capacity,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay, I mean, the damping on it is definitely noticeably different on this. So you still have road and dynamic modes, but I find this bike reminds me why I don't like electronic suspension. Before we bought the XR, I'd always said I don't want one with electronic suspension because I don't like feeling it changing. I don't like that unpredictability. And it's not that I'm a capable enough rider to be able to say, oh, the damping's not quite right. But it just, I can feel it changing. So if you imagine in road mode, say, if that's no damping, so super soft and bouncy, and that's loads of damping, so super hard and firm and horrible, within that range of that, say, our XR, road mode, it will move somewhere between bit firm and quite firm. Okay, on this one, they've changed the latitude of that, so it can go a bit firmer, but it goes really soft. And for you, that's great.
Yeah, it is very. Yeah, it makes it a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. So you know, one of the complaints I think people had with the original XR was that it could be too hard, and it was meant to be an aggressive S1000RR with wide bars almost. So you know, the engine's retuned. It's not as peaky, and this has got all that performance, but the damping is definitely softened. I'd say the whole bike is softened. How does it feel for you in its kind of nature? It's aggressive.
It feels a lot less aggressive than your bike.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing I do notice when I'm pillion on it is that I sense you're not as comfortable on it as you are on your bike. So obviously that affects me because I feel like I have to keep shifting my weight back, because as I shift forward I'm pushing you further forward and you're finding it uncomfortable, so I'm kind of more aware of you not liking it so much. But for me, selfishly, it's a softer, nicer ride on the bike. The acceleration feels less aggressive.
Oh, well, you've noticed it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, peak power and everything, you know, there's nothing really there, but you know, there's no difference. But building up, it's definitely not got that edge, that aggressive edge that it had.
I also miss the popping of your bike.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I really love that when you go and it's like, it just sounds like
roll off.
Yeah,
it's popping and banging. I'm sure on the launch they were still doing it. I mean, it was a soaking wet, horrible launch, but honestly, none of my opinions are raised that. You can watch that video where I compare that bike for a solo rider to the 2019 model. It's up there. You can't see it. But the throwing myself off now. What was I talking about?
Can't remember.
Oh, I couldn't have been very interesting.
No one cares. About the popping.
Oh yeah. I'm positive it was still doing that popping and banging.
I think it's just, I don't know, I have no idea what that sound means, but I think it sounds cool.
It sounds cool, and what it means is BMW have decided to inject a little bit of unburnt fuel into the exhaust during the, so you don't care about this, but you have valve overlap where they're both open at the same time, and as you don't care, do you?
No, not really.
As it's sucking the fuel in and then blowing the fuel out, and as it's blowing the fuel out, it will let a little bit of unburnt fuel in, and that pops and bangs. It sounds cool. It's actually, I wish you could have a switch to turn it off in villages, because it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's not good when you go past horses.
No. I mean, if I see anything like that, you have to go through the modes to make sure it can't. I mean, I normally pull over and stop anyway. But this one just doesn't do it, and it's still got a really good bark, isn't it? It's got a good...
Yeah, it's a really nice bike.
Yeah, it's got a nice sound.
It doesn't seem to quite have the personality of the last year's model.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, I guess, because for me, that's why I loved the old XR, was because it's so aggressive and it's so, you know, that bike's probably used maybe 15-20% pillion. The rest of the time it's me back roads. So selfishly, from my point of view, I want it to be this awesome bike when I'm riding, and it does do so many things. You know, the old bike had vibey bars, but I cured those with the EvoTech Performance handguard protectors, which give it so much more weight, and that damped it down. This one's got properly damped bars, so there's no vibration there. It's still got vibes in it, this bike, throughout really, a little tiny bit through the bars but not intrusive, and a bit through the seat, but nothing intrusive. So there's lots of things that have kind of been fixed, but they've also fixed that aggressiveness, and that's why I bought it.
Because if you weren't too fussed about having an aggressive, really powerful bike, then we would have gone with the Versys. I'm stuck.
You just get off it.
I'm stuck.
Yes, because at the time I had the Versys 1000 on long-term test, didn't I? And I was about to buy that.
Yeah.
You know, I'd got everything in place to potentially buy it at the end of the period I had it on loan. And then we did that.
Yeah.
You know, I got an XR in on comparison, thinking, you know, we need to do this because people always compare them, even though they're really different bikes. And we both fell in love with it, didn't we?
Yeah.
It is a compromise for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I guess really this is kind of competing a bit more with that sport tourer versus market, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
I would imagine BMW know what they're doing.
So to interrupt, one thing I would say about the styling, even though, I mean, it's obviously very smart, expensive looking bike, but it does look like an earwig.
It looks like an earwig crossed with Predator.
And I prefer bikes with a more friendly face. So on first impression,
this is an
the
evolution of the
earwigness put me off a bit.
Yeah, I must admit. In the video I made about them solo, I didn't really want to get into styling. It'd be easy to think that we're biased because we own a 2019, but every bike I test is always looking to see if this is a bike that's going to replace my current bike. So, you know, if this is better, I want this to be the one that we go, maybe after 3 years of ours, we'll get this one. But yeah, I'm not keen on the looks. But that's, one of the things that happened when we were on that first XR, we pulled up, didn't we? And you were really like, I just want people to know I'm on it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that with this?
Not so much.
It's still got the BMW badge.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice bike. It just doesn't win me over. Maybe that's the colour. Maybe if it was black and gold. Don't know. Doesn't. Yeah. It is a really nice bike, but it doesn't wow me.
Okay. Well, let's run over a few things that have changed. So I've got some notes that I made because I took it out. Obviously, we've done 150 mile pillion ride. I did just under 100 miles. Just took it out quickly so I could kind of get another feel for it. Although when we did the big launch, it was in the wet. Stand by everything I kind of said. Now the things that have changed. I do like dynamic pro mode. You have to turn that on. Before you had to have a little dongle that comes with it. It was almost like a little USB stick. It had to be plugged into the bike to enable dynamic pro mode. Now you just go into settings and enable it. It's quite cool now. You can adjust the settings, and there is a setting in there that you can tell it how high you want wheelies to go if it happens to come up. So it's kind of cool. But you can adjust the settings in Dynamic Pro. It's become a user mode with the ability to have it as kind of hardcore as possible. We've been riding it in Dynamic Pro all day. That's been the ride mode, and we've been in road suspension mode most of the day. A couple of times I put it into dynamic and you could feel it, couldn't you? It got too firm for you. Yeah. And going back to that, really, on a solo ride, it's too bouncy in road mode. It's. I was laughing a couple of times. It's just boing, 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 like the damping's off almost. But then dynamic can get a bit too hard. I really like really tight, twisty, bumpy back roads. And I love a bike with big wide bars. You can throw it around. It's like a grown-up supermoto almost. And this suspension doesn't do it for me. There's a lot less latitude between in the road and dynamic modes in the old bike, but it works better for me. I just find this, even in road mode, sometimes it can be a bit hard. Sometimes it can be way too bouncy. And it's that constant movement. It's not dangerous or anything. It's not making you go, oh God, what's it going to do next? But I'm aware of it changing. No more pops and bangs. There's a sport mode option on the dash, which is cool. It looks good. It shows you your maximum lean angle and stuff like that. Bit frustrating though, that every time you turn the bike off and turn it back on again, it goes back to normal mode. And also it defaults back to not being able to control the optional Garmin sat-nav, which is very expensive. Also with that dash, you can see the fuel gauge or you can see the trip. You can't always see the fuel gauge. That doesn't matter if you've got the optional Garmin. I prefer TomToms, but if you've got that Garmin, which came with this one, obviously you do have to pay more for it, then you can set that up to see all your trips as well. So you kind of mix and match it, but there's a lot of space on that TFT dash. I don't know why they couldn't just have had a perpetual fuel gauge. I do like the way they've hidden the luggage racks. So this is ready to take the panniers, and the top box we've already got on it. It comes equipped, ready for them, whereas ours, we've actually got the Jivvy racks on them, and you can take them off, so that's cool. Whereas the BMW own ones, they're on or they're not on the racks. Jivvy is, look at their website, is in the process of making racks for this if you wanted to put Jivvy luggage on this, if you already had it. Frustratingly for owners of the previous model of this, the old luggage doesn't fit the new bike. Bit of a...
Yeah.
A screen, I like the design. It's got a lever on it. It's easier to pull up and down. It was never hard. You had to grab it to pull it up. It's a bit easier to use. It's a bit wider. It's fractionally less buffety. So that works well. The stand, this bike's been around a bit. Mr. Flyer had it just for us, and he commented that the stand was quite short. And when I got it, I thought, it does lean a bit more. Not as bad as the Royal Enfield Interceptor, but I didn't really think much of it. Just put it in the garage, like, yeah, fair enough. It's a little bit harder to pick up, but blimey, with you on it, it really, really worried me when we pulled up here. I tried to find a bit that was flat, and I know I'm being paranoid because it will stop it, but you look down, it's like, that's got too far to go. And it just leans and leans and leans and leans. And when you've got a pillion on the back, you've got all that weight, you're like, once this is gone, or if I have misjudged this and it's a bit too far, it's horrible. Yeah. Really, I see in the end, I had to pull up the road a bit, didn't I? Let you get off and then move it into position here.
Yeah, once it's got my heft on it, it is nearly tipping. It felt like it feels like it tips. Like, and then you get off.
So that makes it a little bit harder. When you're on completely level ground, that still makes it a little bit harder to pick up. But it is frustrating.
You would struggle with if you pulled up on a country road with the camber of the road quite steep and arched, and you had no choice but to stop. I think I don't know for sure. I think there's a good chance it would go past the tipping point.
I don't think it would, but it's really disconcerting. It could. I don't think it'd have to be a really steep camber, but it is just too much, and it spoils it for me. Offset by that is the fact that the seat is slightly narrower, so you've got less standover, which means I can get my feet down. I'm 5'10", I can get my feet down that little bit easier, and that's good because I feel a bit more sure-footed with it, because it is quite a tall bike. I've toyed with the idea of having ours lowered, but I don't want to upset the handling because it's lovely. But we love exploring back roads, which is what we've done here. I set up on Kalimoto, said we want about 150 mile ride, round trip, go. And it did it, and it's been brilliant, hasn't it? I mean, I've always loved using sat-navs, but I hardly use them now. I'm using Kalimoto on my phone, and I've just got it on this SP Connect bracket. But this is what we love, and we genuinely come along and go, oh, this looks good, let's stop here. And we had our Greggs. Got Greggs on the way out, we've had a picnic, and it's... But parking up was a ridiculous trauma. But it's better that I can stand over it easier. And the seat is really thin on the XR, and it looks thin, but that doesn't matter. It's the shape. And on the previous model, I'd say it's the comfiest bike I've ever ridden. Ironically, given how thin it is. And I used to find the Versys made my bum ache quite quickly. It was big. It felt great in the showroom, but then you sink into it, and after a while it got uncomfy. Whereas the XR cups my bum just right, and I do seem to have a sensitive bottom, but I find this really quite uncomfy. Exactly the same as I found the launch. It slides me forward, so I'm constantly trying to push myself back to get into that cupped bit, 'cause it does cup you, but it still slides you forward. But worse than that, as the ridges that come round, they're slightly raised, and I find pressure points in the underside of my thighs, and it just digs in, and all the time my balls were getting dragged. It got quite uncomfy.
Yeah, you don't want ball drag.
No. Getting home last night after riding it, it was less than 100 miles. I was like, oh, actually, achy. But you like it.
Yeah, selfishly, it's more comfy for me.
I think
it's probably just not a good bike if you're trying for a baby.
It's not that bad. It's only tearage. Oh. It's not a pounding. It's just a dragging. I think to buy this bike, it depends how much you love your pillion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's got the quick shifter still. Bizarrely though, it's really reluctant to downshift. It's been a few times I've been on it, and I'm going to have to use the clutch. There's a couple of times on ours where you think, well, maybe I should have used the clutch there. But here it just gets like it just doesn't want to change. Upshifter's fine, and I know a lot of people think quick shifters are pointless off the track, but I noticed we've had no helmet badging at all today, have we?
No.
And obviously you can...
Sounds dodge.
Yeah, you can clutchlessly shift, obviously, just by rolling off and just bringing it up, but the quick shifter does make it nice and easy. And so the downshifter, I don't know, just doesn't... Maybe it just needs a little bit of a tweak, but it certainly doesn't seem quite right on this one. Other than that, the other difference is the brakes are a little bit sharper on this one, I've found. When I first got on it, I was like, oh, really like jamming forward. But you just get used to it. These are the Hayes brakes on them, mine's got the Brembo brakes on them. These feel sharper. Both of them have got very good brakes. this is really sure foot. There was one point where I nearly missed a turn, right?
Yeah.
Didn't I? And I just jammed the brakes on. And it was nice and safe because, you know, we weren't in danger. But the bike was just so nicely planted. So, ooh, and then a turn. So it's a brilliant handling.
Yeah.
Well, no, trouble is I'm contradicting myself, aren't I? Because that bouncy suspension really does ruin it for me. But it does all work. I guess it's a great handling adventure sport tourer. It's got no pretensions of being off-road, as it, you know, it is for adventure road riding, which is what we love. And if you want that and you want to do it as a couple and you want to enjoy where you're going together, then actually it works really well. That's the only thing I'd say I'd changed since my opinion from the launch, because we weren't able to ride it with pillions. But as a solo rider, it's still good if you want something really soft. But if you've got the 2019 and you're about to trade up, test ride one, because it's not badass anymore, is it?
No.
So should we buy one?
No, keep yours.
What about when it's due for valve clearances and everything like that?
How long will that be away?
18,000 miles, it'd be a while. But
worry about that when the time comes.
Would this be the one that you go, I'd want to trade up for that, I suppose?
Hard to know.
For you, I guess.
Yeah, from pillion, it's a very comfortable pillion bike.
Yeah.
But there's no point one person loving it and another person finding the seat uncomfortable.
That's true, and you know, there's a lot of things in here that are very much personal, very personal opinions, aren't they? You know, a road test can never say, do buy this, don't buy that. But it does. I'd say if you're going to test ride one, be aware of that seat, try it, see how you get on with it. Other than that, if you like the way it feels and handles, brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, clearly BMW knew the market, and there's obviously more of a market for something that's not quite as narky.
Yeah.
Stop a minute, because I need to get my notebook out. Check, yeah. I'm just checking that we're still recording. Well, the other one being a compromise, wasn't it?
About getting a Versus if you want something that's not so aggressive and comfy for a pillion.
What I'll do. I guess, really, the BMW. Do you like the transition there?
How are you going to explain the fact that you've got a
because I pretended that
red notebook?
I pretended that I got it from behind there, so then it'll appear.
Yeah.
So now you've got to be quiet again when I get it.
Smooth.
Otherwise, it just appears in my hand.
What you got behind the log?
Shut up.